Um, Namaskar, dosto. We are back with the second part of our recording on the discussion on monetization plan. So welcome back, Rakesh ji, Kishore ji, and we are just waiting for Randeep ji and Surendra Dada. So in the meantime, let me put some data into perspective, which I think Kishore ji and Rakesh ji both will be very well aware of. The from the plan that has been announced by the government, approximately 66% of the monetized value will come from roads, railways, and power sector, with telecom and ports and mining contributing some element. Mining apparently is going to give around 6%, and aviation 8%, and like. So, when we roads, we have seen what could be the in what way it is being monetized, and in what way the value is being brought in, how the money, the critical thing, it is being brought in. But I'm just thinking, insofar as if assets like telecom are concerned, okay, or ports, how are they going to actually monetize? How are they going to realize revenue from that? Can you throw some light?
Shall I?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So what they have done is, Phil. That's why this the NM the plan which they have created is an amazing one. I think you guys should read something on Niti Aayog. A couple of hundreds of pages of PDF has been made. Now, what does
Right.
it say? Like Kishore said, roads, power transmission. These are all very well settled. Power generation is one area. Natural gas is the other area. The telecom is already known. You know what the spectrum can lead to. You already know. Warehousing, mining, aviation, ports, and stadiums. Stadiums are one of the big takeaways. You will probably see BCCI struggling to make that much of money back again. It goes into government coffers. And urban real estate. As of now, I think what they are doing, they're not selling away land because that's a very contentious one. They're only planning to lease. Now, if you look at what the asset is not necessarily the tangible assets. The assets can be intangible. You have the spectrum, you have the space, you have the airways, you have the global commons, that is the sea and others. These are also can be monetized. These are all the properties of the government, of public properties of government of India. So these could be monetized. So let's take a port. Port is you could have a completely privately operated port. You could have a strategically built port infrastructure which is handed over to Navy. So there are lots of things. The idea of this plan is basically to build infrastructure, only to build infrastructure. I mean, the ease of, as I just mentioned, there are global sovereign funds waiting with $50 billion check to be encashed. All they're looking, it's not a question of where they want to invest. The model of Indian infrastructure success has already been noted. They know their money is there. We are still starting to get developed. We have not yet developed our infrastructure at all. You can imagine the potential of bringing in another 200 to 300 million middle class into the spendable spectrum. Can you imagine what happens? That is what I mean. You're talking of developing one more America. Who would not want to invest? So there are multiple ways. If you look at one of the projects I am personally involved as an investor is a urban land of railways. They have given it to us for 99 years of lease. Now it's a railway colony, which is also part of this project. Railway colony of about 5 acres in Metuguda area of Hyderabad, Secunderabad, which
Okay.
which they have given us for 99 years lease to be demolished, built, used in any which way we want, where they take a certain portion of a revenue as a royalty. The royalty for 100 years for them is about 100 crores, whereas we can make about 10,000 crores out of it, give back the land to them at the end, or they may sell it to us at when the regulations are relaxed. So the monetization aspect is, I think, it is on a case by case basis. It is on a need by need basis. But the idea is very simple: get the money from private entities, use it for infrastructure development, build the asset, give it back to the government at a later state.
Okay. Uh, Ishaji, you have any question? Or I'll take over the. Should I continue?
I had muted
You're
it.
on mute.
I unmuted it. Actually, I was going through the various discussions on monetization, and I came across one in which, they were saying that along with monetization, another thing which is going to be very important and which is linked to monetization is artificial intelligence. So I would be very happy if, one of you could explain to our viewers what exactly is artificial intelligence. And it was said that we are lagging behind, but we have a lot of potential in it. So, yes.
So I'll take this.
Yes, please.
Yeah, why do you need artificial intelligence when you have humans here who are much smarter than what the artificial intelligence can bring in? But in any case, the reasoning being there is so much of data, there is so much of probability and complexities. Decision making is something which artificial intelligence can help you with. For example, for example, if you look at which sector to be taken first, what kind of backgrounding you need to do, what kind of processes you need to bring in. So basic aspects of cutting short the processes can be artificial intelligence, but I think decision making as such, where artificial intelligence is really useful, is not necessary, and it is just a buzzword. Anyone and everyone wants these days to bring in artificial intelligence. I don't think in this matter it matters that much, because this is pure financial intelligence. This is pure finance. This is pure monetization of your assets. This is hardcore areas where I would not want completely AI taking over. These are financial wizards. The country has hundreds of them that they will bring in their thought and process. I think think tanks are something who will really love doing this. I mean, artificial intelligence is just for people like Pakistan and all who don't have intelligence.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I have, yeah, please, Kishorji.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not really sure if just to add on whatever Rakesh has actually said over here. I'm not really sure if artificial intelligence will have a major role to play over here. But other than that, I mean, artificial intelligence has a very, very important role to play generally in India itself, right? So you've got a population of 1.4 billion people who have a certain set of behavioral traits, okay, and who have a set of behavioral traits, consumption pattern. You have a set of emotions attached with that 1 billion. So you would need intelligence to actually tap into that, understand how 1.4 billion people actually react at a certain point in time, or what is the potential demand that 1.4 billion people can actually create in the future. Demand, or let's say, how do you cater to their demand and how do you supply to that demand? So that is where artificial intelligence can be used. I mean, it can be used as a tactical weapon in all other spheres as well. But I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't think artificial intelligence has a very big big role to play in asset monetization per se. So that's just my addition.
Okay. I have questions to both Kishorji and Randeepji. I was reading in one of the articles that ports, airports, railways, warehouses, mining, and telecom, okay, they will follow the capex approach for monetization, then market approach for roads, power transmission, telecom tower assets, book value for power generations, and infrastructure under DFCCIL, that is a dedicated freight corridor, and enterprise value approach for natural gas pipeline and product pipeline. What are these various differences in the approach? Can you throw some light? Can anyone?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sure. So, each one of these assets are valued in a certain way, right? So, if you're looking at, for example, you just said if you're talking about ports, then there is the kind of methodology which is being used over here is capex. So the reason why it's capex is because if you look at it, ports by themselves in India have very little. I mean, ports is actually a gold mine in India and a very contentious topic, because the moment you try building a port somewhere, it hits the, let's say, livelihood of the fishermen. So whatever capacity that we have right now, I mean, I think we have, I mean, there are 31 ports that are actually being lined up for this monetization plan. Right. And I think they are going to generate close to 12,000, 13,000 crores and roughly around 3,000, 4,000 crores per year over the next 4 years. Right. So the value that is derived, I mean, the way these guys are, I mean, these ports are valued is what is the additional money that, let's say, a private player would have to spend to actually generate a port, I mean, to actually replace this port and generate a similar sort of revenue, which will give us a monetization value of 12,000 crores. So that's how the valuation method is determined. Let's say when you're looking at, it's more like a replacement cost method, right? I mean, that's a financial term for it. So let's say you already have a functioning port. If you have to put up a similar sort of a port at a different place, giving you a similar sort of value. So what would that value be? So that is the capex method over here. So if you're looking at, let's say, transmission lines, let's say power plants, you go with book value method. I mean, because the value of a power plant is actually recorded as book value on the balance sheet of any of the, I mean, all of these companies, right? So if you're looking at NTPC itself, so you've got 60 gigawatts of power, power generating capacity that NTPC's got. So 60 gigawatts, and then that will be like, let's say, 5,000 crores per gigawatt, and then you're looking at, let's say, 3 lakh crores of, let's say, your asset value itself. And then remove the debt portion from it, and your asset will be anywhere between 1 to 1 lakh crores, right? Or it could be slightly less that NTPC operates with a high leverage. So there is no market value to a power plant. You only have book value because the cost is already incurred, and then that is already recorded in your balance sheet, and then you just record that as that is the value of that asset per se. So these are the different methods that you actually use. So when it comes to roads, I mean, there is no, apart from the value of the land per se, obviously there is no value to a road itself. So the only value is what is the amount of money that you can generate using that road, in terms of toll revenue and things like that, or let's say toll revenue or rentals and things like that. So each one of these assets actually have a different way to, each one of these assets have to be valued in a different way. I mean, similar to just valuing stocks, right? So, I mean, that's what I do. So each one of these assets have a different method to, let's say, be valued. So, yeah. So that's the reason why you have different methods. Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. Now, with all this, I think, I'll just move on to some of the objections that are coming to this plan. Okay, notably from some of the political parties. No other, very few people have spoken about it. Some of the questions are this: that what kind of a dispute? I'm not going to criticism itself, but one of the very essential thing to this is a dispute resolution mechanism. Randeep sir, can you throw some light as to what could be an appropriate dispute resolution mechanism for this in this kind of agreements? Because that is an essential part of this.
Yeah, so Rajanji, I really have gone through the details, technical details as far as the contracts are concerned. But I'm pretty sure that there will be a robust, dispute resolution mechanism. I don't know whether the government has already announced that, but if
not to my knowledge.
Yeah, if it has, then it is not to my knowledge. So I think just like it has to be something on the lines of what the government has done on IBC, the bankruptcy code. I think the point is the key features, the key salient points which they have to keep into mind is that the adjudication has to be neutral and it has to be done within a time frame. I think that's most important. And I think the concept of that resolution should actually be exactly very similar to what the IBC code says. In fact, have implemented the IBC code, there have been further learnings. For example, we know now for sure that it is taking much more time than it was actually destined to take as per the law. So that has to be resolved. And also I think unfortunately, fortunately, this is actually going to put a lot of pressure on the courts again, which are already under a lot of pressure. We know we are behind by 3-4 crores of cases which are still pending. The IBC, we have seen how the courts are and how they are stretched. So this is surely going to put in a lot more pressure on the court. So I think this is something which the government really has to think through, and apparently also need to involve the judiciary in this, and more importantly augment judiciary. I know just recently we inducted around, I think, 13 judges in the Supreme Court, so that's a good beginning. I think we need to induct a lot more judges, not just the Supreme Court, but even at the district level there are a lot of vacancies. So I think a lot needs to be done over there. So one is, of course, the easier part probably is defining what the dispute resolution should be, which, given our experience with the IBC, we should be able to do that easily. But I think the implementation part is going to be much more tougher in terms of resolving conflicts and having robust judiciary behind that, who can do it within a given time frame. So that's my broad comments on this.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Randeep ji, but I think they have created something called a Development Financial Institution and National Bank for Financial Infrastructure and Development, which is very recent, 2021. Along with this, I think, the ROC and the IPC, the register of companies who take care of the statutory requirements, and then, the IPC and the tribunal route will probably be able to plug and take care of this issues that may come in. It's just a contract.
It's a contract. My question is to Dada. Surinder Dada, I would like to know, do you favor monetization? Do you favor that do you think that it should be the priority should be the Indian companies, or do you think that equal opportunities should be given to foreign-based companies and Indian companies?
For monetization, you're asking, no?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think we should allow all, excepting a few known countries, like one of our neighbors and all. Keeping our safety and defense points in mind, it's time India should go for broadbanding its development instead of confining ourselves. And that is where we'll get the latest technology also, ideas, and build up faster. This is also a time when all of these major manufacturing countries are looking to India, either as a market or as a place for producing it more economically, or because of PLI, which has not been very much understood either by the media or general politicians. But PLI is that it's not a general policy of, how should I say, like once upon a time, we wanted to develop something. We said, all right, Himachal, there'll be no excise duty on any production made in Himachal or in Assam. And there was a lot of misuse. So instead of that, PLI is that under that there's a group of secretaries to monitor it. A company makes an application that we are producing this, we want these facilities, and if you make these facilities available to us, we'll give you this production. And one of the main criteria for those secretaries deciding is your production as on date, plus what extra in next 2 3 days, years you will give. No guarantee of marketing, no guarantee of anything else. Only you commit to those productions. Today you are making, say, X. You say after 3 years we'll be making X into 2 or X in plus 20. So they agree to the figure, the board, and announce you a package of so many thousand crores that you receive. Achieve that figure, you will get that amount. So that is a very big incentive. The iPhone, which was hesitating to come to India after the Chinese fiasco, came under PLI and is expanding under PLI. And recently, special steels have been put into it. About 2 days back, cotton textiles, some sections, specialty textiles, non-woven fabrics and things like that. I don't know much about those items, have been put into under PLI. So these things will sort of take off. And one stake required is that technology for that. And if we keep it open for others, that technology will come faster.
Quite true.
That's my take.
Natarajanji?
Yeah. See, there have been some criticism that have come in, genuine, not genuine, political mostly, that have come in. I'll put some of them that I've been able to gather. One is that the charges that Congress never, did any sell off, so to say, any of the assets of the country. Okay, that is one charge. The other thing is that Mr. P. Chidambaram has gone on record saying that Konkan Railway and Delhi Mumbai freight corridor will also be sold. Okay, then I don't think there has been any credence that any asset will be sold. And as per the discussion that we have had, we are very clear that asset will be put to better use, not being sold. The ownership will still be with the government of India. And the third, it's a general question from my side, is that what, in addition to this, the dispute resolution mechanism, what kind of safety measures should be built in to protect the assets? For instance, if the assets are taken over by these people or, for a long lease, will there be any clause to maintain, upgrade the assets based on the then technologies that are available? Because if the lease is good, this plan is for 4 years, but I can jolly well imagine that it could go on for a much longer time to really derive the value. So in that case, what kind of arrangement could be put in to ensure that the asset is also maintained or replaced over a period of time? These are some of the questions.
So, I briefly talk about the criticism piece first. So, look at it broadly. Other than the BJP government or party, all the other parties are fairly left of center. So, and in fact, Congress ever since 2014 has actually gone to extreme left, supporting the Tukde Tukde gang and, everything. I mean, we discussed that earlier. So they have gone completely left. So it is fairly obvious that, criticism is going to be there. And that's a political criticism. In fact, if I can take you back to 1991, when Narasimha Rao went in for liberalization, the maximum, criticism was coming from AICC. I mean, if you recall, AICC was actually the one who were opposing that. So since 1991, Congress has gone much more left. So the criticism is obviously bound to be there. And on the second point is, as Surinderji pointed out earlier, they are applying the global strategy that, they are just lying through their teeth, every time they bring up this word sold, selling, but actually this is not selling. This is about giving those assets on lease, which then will be monetized, and the revenue stream will be created for the government, which the government will utilize for welfare schemes. Right now, there is zero revenue coming out of those assets. Now we are going to create revenue. So this is a win-win situation for everybody. Now,
Right.
I agree with Kishorji when he mentioned earlier that Modi ji needs to have a lot more stronger PR. Now,
That was
I don't know.
Rakesh ji. Rakesh ji.
Should be Minister of Communication. Actually, you should take it up because this is a very strategic, area. This is about ideology. This is about being left to center, or right. So we need to clearly explain this to public. I think eventually Modi ji will do it when he gets into an election campaign. He's such a great communicator that he'll be able to communicate all these aspects in a very simple way. But then why wait for the last moment, and create so confusion? So I think the Ministry of Communication probably, I hope so, would take up this, challenge. So this is about, again, ideology. So fighting ideology at a political level and, busting their lies. These are the two things which we really need to focus on. Other than that, as I mentioned, as everybody has mentioned on the panel, this is just a win-win situation for everybody.
May I add one thing? If I'm not mistaken, the airports, whether it is Delhi, Bombay, they have already, under the Congress, it has been monetized. Am I right?
Exactly.
Yes.
So was did the Congress बेच दिया?
तो वही देखिए कि एयरपोर्ट सबसे पहले कांग्रेस ने शुरू किया. आई थिंक इंटरनेशनल, किशोर जी, द एक्सपर्ट्स कैन correct me if I'm wrong, but I think दिल्ली का इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट जीवीके को दिया गया. सबसे पहले वही था शायद, या हैदराबाद
जीवीके, हैदराबाद में जीवीके, बैंगलोर जीवीके.
हाँ, तो वो हुआ. अच्छा, मजे की बात है, CAA सबसे पहले, इफ यू रिमेम्बर, मनमोहन जी ने पार्लियामेंट में सबसे पहले वो मुद्दा रेज किया था. अफगानिस्तान में सिख्स को लेके के वहां पे उनको प्रोटेक्शन चाहिए, वी नीड टू ब्रिंग देम बैक एज रिफ्यूजी. सबसे पहले उन्होंने शुरू किया, बट क्योंकि बीजेपी ने किया तो अपोज कर. सो ऑपोजिशन इज जस्ट डूइंग इट फॉर द सेक ऑफ ऑपोजिशन, नथिंग एल्स.
किशोर जी, आप
प्लीज गो ऑन.
प्लीज आप बोलिए.
Okay. The point is, the role of the opposition is to just politicize whatever the government actually does, right? But I wouldn't say that this is a very foolproof, let's say, there are loopholes and the modalities are actually picked out. So each of these has have a different set of unique, right? And when monitoring each of these assets, or let's say entering into out each of these assets, the types, tracks, and the caveats that you must have are very, very different, which is very, very unique to the type of asset that you're actually monetizing. So once that starts happening, that is when you will get to know, you will actually get to know what are the intricacies of leasing these assets out. So as of now, there is no one-fit-all model of leasing them out. So, so to actually talk about, let's say, modalities and what are the modalities and all of that, I mean, all of these cannot be given out in, let's say, a press release or, let's say, a press conference or anything of that sort, which is what Mr. Chidambaram is asking the government, which is not possible because each of these, if you actually go to the DPOM website, there is a set of rules and regulations and a set of processes need to be followed to monetize or, let's say, lease out any asset. And each of these assets have, like I said, a characteristic, and then they have to be leased out only in a certain way, only if a set of checklists are ticked. So there is no standardized contract for any of this. So yeah, that's my take on this, and it will evolve as we go, because even if you look at IBC right now, there are two financial services companies which are under IBC. One is DHFL and the other one is RCAP. I mean, RCAP has still not got into the NCLT, but yeah, DHFL is still being resolved. It's a pretty big company with, let's say, close to 10,000 crores of balance sheet. And there are a lot of learnings that are coming through the IBC. I mean, it's very good that the government is, in its first term between 2014 and 2019, actually focused on the grassroots by doing the Jandan account, Aadhaar, and then Mudrans, and then focused on electrification, and enacted the IBC, then brought, clean balance sheet of all the banks. Because if you look at it, the NPAs were at 11 lakh crores in, I think, 2016 or 17, I think. And now it's come down to around 6.5 lakh crores. So the balance sheet is clean. And now, during that period, the private sector investments actually came down to, let's say, anywhere between 28% of the GDP. It touched a peak of, let's say, 35%. I think sometime around in 2008 or 9. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's 9. So all of the groundwork has already been done. Now the private sector is hesitant to invest. So how do you actually give them the impetus? By telling them, okay, I already have a revenue generating asset. All you guys have to do is just take this from me, run it on your own terms. So the contractual modalities and all of that would actually be worked out eventually. So it's a good path that the government is actually following, and hopefully everything works out. So yeah.
Randeep ji had raised his hand. Yes, Randeep ji.
We have 7 minutes. We have 7 minutes on hand.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say, Kishorji brought up Chidambaram. Now, there's a famous saying, the devil lies in the detail. Now, what Chidambaram is, very smartly getting into details which are yet to be chalked out. He's getting into technical details, which the government will be taking a call, as Kishore said, on a case-to-case basis. So, that will be done. So, but the good thing is, since वो technical details में जा रहे हैं, जनता का ध्यान उस पे नहीं जाने वाला. So not too many people are to know. People, common people like you and me, इतना numbers और ये detail में नहीं जाता है. I think the challenge is that broadly conceptual level पे, we need to, Modi government needs to fight this war at a political narrative level. बाकी डिटेल्स जो है, जैसे उसने बोला है कि as time goes on, those will be out. Broadly, the concept, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Rakesh ji?
Yeah, I think I want to actually bring in a new perspective. See, the fear of all the politicians of all hues know it is good. The reason they are, but there are certain things which even Government of India is not very clear about. For example, the collective taxation, it's too much of taxation is going to erode value. One, then there needs to be a mechanism to plow back these tax revenues back into the performance-linked incentives. 2, and then third is ring fence the monetization proceeds back into the development of these assets. So these 3 are not very clear in the policy, and this is what they fear, because they fear that the money the Government of India makes out of this may get skewed in the social spends they are doing, and the economic value and the advantage politicians like BJP people will get in this process. So that's the biggest fear. So this is very high-end financial political battle, which I think corporates like think tanks like Niti Aayog can bring in some clarity into, but this is a perception war.
Yes, Randeep ji, and then Surinder ji.
राकेश जी ने बहुत बढ़िया पॉइंट बोला है. आई थिंक the point is कि ऑपोजिशन को मालूम है कि अगर ये हो गया तो इसमें गवर्नमेंट बहुत रेवेन्यू जनरेट करेंगे और वो फिर यूटिलाइज करेंगे फॉर वेलफेयर एंड सोशल सेक्टर स्कीम्स, जो कि कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट और गवर्नमेंट्स ऑफ द पास्ट दे नेवर डिड. So that is basically और उनका इसीलिए ऑपोजिशन का फोकस हर समय गवर्नमेंट को प्रेशराइज करने पे रहा है कि वो पैसा मिंट करें या पैसा उसको जनरेट करें, ताकि फिर फिस्कल डेफिसिट बढ़े, इन्फ्लेशन हो जाए और इकोनॉमी का बैठ जाए। वो चाह रहे हैं, वो उनका प्लान है, जो कि उन्होंने खुद किया, जो कि उन्होंने खुद पिछले 10 सालों में आप देखिए इन्फ्लेशन रेट कितना हो गया था, फिस्कल डेफिसिट कहां से कहां तक पहुंच गया था। सो ये बिल्कुल राकेश जी राइट हैं, ये बेसिकली जानती है ऑपोजिशन के ये ठीक है स्ट्रेटजी, बट उनको पॉलिटिकली ये खेलना है नैरेटिव, वो पॉलिटिकली उस पर खेल रहे हैं।
Okay, Dada, last words from you.
दीदी अब क्या बोलूं, मेरे ख्याल से इतनी पॉलिटिक्स अपनी बदल गई है कि वी आर ऑन अ रॉन्ग थिंकिंग मोस्ट ऑफ अस. When I say us, I'm talking of politicians and media, not we gentlemen. So many parties have become irrelevant. Congress, we all know. But is there any need for a Communist Party or a Socialist Party now? इन दोनों को तो मोदी जी खा गए हैं. कम्युनिस्ट क्या कहता था, अमीरों से पैसा लेके गरीब को दे दूंगा, बराबर कर दूंगा. तो उन्होंने तो अमीरों से लिया नहीं, लेकिन गरीबों को दे रहे हैं. 80 करोड़ लोगों को 2 साल से खिला रहे हैं, सबको वैक्सीन फ्री है. अभी कोविड के टाइम में कितने इलाज हुए और सब चीजें हो रही हैं. तो बोलने का तरीका अलग हो सकता है, लेकिन काम जो कम्युनिस्ट चाहते थे, ठीक है, हड़तालें नहीं हो रही है, वो नहीं हो रही, यूनियनबाजी नहीं हो रही है, लेकिन गरीब के पास तक पहुंचाना था, वो अपने आप पहुंच रहा है. सोशलिस्ट उनका वो क्या था, नीचे के लोगों को देना. तो अंत्योदय का काम तो हो रहा है अभी, मकान बनाने से लोगों से मकान देंगे, तो मकान बना दिया. किस वक्त अमेरिका में रूजवेल्ट के पहले उसने कहा था स्लोगन, अ चिकन ऑन एवरी टेबल एंड अ कार इन एवरी गैराज एंड 2 चिकन इन ऑन एवरी टेबल.
दादा, आई हैव टू इंटरप्ट.
हूवर ने कहा था, और उसके बाद ऐसा
दादा आई हैव टू इंटरप्ट. एकदम टाइम शॉर्ट हो गया है, सॉरी, एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच. एंड मेरे व्यूअर्स को इतना ही बोलना है कि देखिए, हम लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं आप लोगों के लिए अलग अलग टॉपिक्स लेके आने के लिए. प्लीज हम लोगों को सपोर्ट कीजिए. थैंक यू.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.